You've already sensed something terrifying about the intelligence of people who choose to be alone. Not terrifying because they're dangerous, but because you've recognized they've discovered a truth that threatens everything most people believe about human connection and mental capacity. Your perceptive mind has probably wondered why the brightest people you know consistently choose solitude over society. Schopenhauer spent decades studying this same pattern you've observed, and his research validates what you've likely suspected. The people who choose to be alone aren't running from intelligence. They're protecting it from something that's making everyone else intellectually weaker. You've probably already noticed what makes this even more unsettling. These people haven't given up on relationships or human connection. Your awareness has shown you they've simply learned the difference between being alone and being lonely. They've discovered what I call intelligent solitude, the capacity to find profound fulfillment in their own company while maintaining meaningful connections with others. Schopenhauer wrote, "A man can be himself only so long as he is alone, and if he does not love solitude, he will not love freedom." Your experience has probably confirmed what he really meant. Your brain literally functions differently when you're alone versus when you're with others. You've probably already identified what makes solitary intelligence so threatening to most people. Your awareness has detected what Schopenhauer discovered, and modern researchers now call cognitive restoration, the brain's ability to regenerate mental energy and clarity only when freed from social processing demands. Your intelligence has likely recognized how much mental bandwidth social interaction actually consumes. You've probably noticed that when you're with other people, even people you love, your brain is constantly running background programs, reading facial expressions, monitoring tone of voice, managing social dynamics, avoiding conflict, seeking approval, maintaining your image. You've sensed that this isn't conscious, it's automatic. But your perceptive mind has probably also recognized that it's cognitively expensive in ways that most people never acknowledge. Your observations align perfectly with what Schopenhauer discovered. Intelligent people who choose solitude have made a startling realization that you've likely experienced yourself. Your best thinking, your most creative insights, and your deepest understanding emerges not from social interaction, but from what I call cognitive silence, periods when your mind is freed from the constant noise of social processing. You've probably already understood that this doesn't mean being antisocial. Your wisdom recognizes that intellectual capacity has limits, and you've likely decided to protect those limits for what matters most to you. Schopenhauer's insights align with what modern neuroscience now confirms and what you've probably experienced firsthand. When you're alone, your brain activates what researchers call the default mode network, a state of consciousness that allows for deep reflection, creative synthesis, and what psychologists call integrative thinking. You've likely discovered what's truly fascinating about this. The default mode network is suppressed when you're in social situations. Your brain literally cannot access its highest cognitive functions when it's busy managing interpersonal dynamics. If you've ever had your best ideas in the shower, during walks, or late at night when everyone else is asleep, comment below. My mind comes alive in silence. Your experience has probably shown you that choosing solitude hasn't meant rejecting human connection. You've simply recognized that your contributions to others, your creativity, your insights, your emotional presence, actually improve when you regularly restore your cognitive resources through periods of chosen aloneness. You've probably already identified what Schopenhauer discovered separates people who thrive in solitude from those who suffer in it. Your awareness has shown you what he called inner richness, the development of a mental and emotional world so engaging that solitude becomes a luxury rather than a punishment. You've likely observed that most people fear being alone because when they're alone, they're bored, anxious, or depressed. Your perceptive mind has probably recognized they've never developed what I call internal entertainment systems, the capacity to find infinite fascination in their own thoughts, imagination, and inner experiences. Your intelligence has probably led you to a different discovery. You've likely realized that your own consciousness, properly developed, can be more interesting than most conversations, more entertaining than most media, and more rewarding than most social activities. Schopenhauer wrote, "The more a man has in himself, the less he needs from outside. What a man is of incomparably more consequence to his happiness than what he has, or how he stands in the eyes of the world." Your experience has probably confirmed this truth in your own life. You've likely discovered that this inner richness doesn't happen automatically. Your development has probably involved what Schopenhauer called cultivation of mind, deliberate development of intellectual and aesthetic capacities that make solitude genuinely enjoyable. Your observations have probably shown you people who can spend hours reading, writing, creating, or simply thinking without feeling lonely. You've recognized they've developed what I call cognitive self-sufficiency, the ability to generate meaning, entertainment, and emotional satisfaction from within rather than requiring constant external stimulation. You've probably sensed what makes this threatening to people who haven't developed inner richness. These solitary individuals appear mysterious, even threatening, because their contentment challenges the assumption that human happiness requires constant social validation and external entertainment. Your awareness has likely shown you these patterns. They can sit quietly in restaurants without checking their phones. They can spend entire weekends alone without feeling empty. They can travel by themselves and find it enriching rather than isolating. You've probably recognized this isn't antisocial behavior. It's evidence of psychological development that most people never attempt. They've learned to enjoy their own company because they've made their inner world worth visiting. Your intelligence has probably led you to Schopenhauer's understanding. This development is actually essential for healthy relationships. You've likely observed that people who can't tolerate being alone often become psychologically dependent on others in ways that diminish rather than enhance connection. If you've ever chosen to stay home alone instead of going to a social event and felt genuinely happy about it, comment, "I found myself in the silence." Your experience has probably shown you that the person who chooses solitude from inner richness brings more to their relationships, not less. They engage with others from fullness rather than emptiness, choice rather than desperation, strength rather than need. You've probably already discovered what Schopenhauer identified as what I call attention economics, the recognition that mental energy is finite and that intelligent people must be strategic about how they invest their cognitive resources. Your awareness has likely shown you that every social interaction, no matter how pleasant, requires what psychologists call social cognitive load. You've probably noticed you're processing not just information, but emotional states, unspoken agendas, group dynamics, and complex interpersonal mathematics. Your intelligence has probably led you to calculate the cost of this constant social processing and make a strategic decision. You've likely realized you have limited mental bandwidth each day, and you want to spend it on thinking, creating, learning, and developing rather than on maintaining social relationships that don't add substantial value to your life. You've probably encountered people who find this perspective cold until they understand what you're protecting. Schopenhauer wrote, "The capacity for solitude is the sign of a strong, noble, and independent mind." Your experience has likely confirmed that creativity, original thinking, and deep understanding require cognitive resources that social interaction depletes. Your observations align with what modern research confirms and what Schopenhauer understood. Studies show that creative breakthroughs typically occur during periods of solitary reflection, not during group brainstorming. You've probably noticed that the most innovative thinkers in history, Einstein, Darwin, Tesla, Virginia Woolf, all structured their lives around protecting substantial periods of solitude. You've likely figured out what people misunderstand about your choice. Your intelligence has probably shown you that choosing solitude often means maintaining a small number of deeply meaningful relationships with people who understand and respect your need for cognitive space. You haven't eliminated human connection, you've become highly selective about it. Your experience has probably taught you this pattern. You might spend an evening alone reading, thinking, or working on personal projects, then engage in a single deep conversation that's more meaningful than hours of casual socializing. You've learned to distinguish between social activity and social connection. You've probably discovered what I call the depth versus breadth principle. Instead of maintaining dozens of superficial relationships that drain your energy, you've likely chosen to cultivate a few profound connections that actually enhance your intellectual and emotional life. Your awareness has probably shown you that Schopenhauer himself exemplified this balance. He was famous for his solitary habits, daily walks alone, meals in silence, a life structured around protecting his mental energy for philosophical work. But he also maintained correspondence with some of the greatest minds of his era. His solitude enhanced rather than diminished his capacity for meaningful intellectual exchange. Your intelligence has probably led you to make a strategic decision about cognitive resource allocation. You've likely decided that depth is more valuable than breadth, that quality matters more than quantity, that intellectual achievement is worth more than social popularity. If you've ever felt mentally exhausted after a day of socializing, even with people you like, comment, "People drain my batteries, solitude charges them." You've probably recognized this isn't misanthropy, it's cognitive self-care that actually makes you a better friend, partner, and contributor when you do choose to engage with others. Schopenhauer identified as philosophical perspective, the ability to see patterns, connections, and truths that remain invisible to people caught up in the daily social drama of human life. Your experience has likely shown you that when you step back from constant social engagement, something remarkable happens. You begin to observe human behavior from what anthropologists call an outsider perspective. You've probably noticed how much of what people consider urgent is actually trivial. You've seen how social dynamics repeat the same patterns across different groups and contexts. Your observations align with what Schopenhauer spent his life developing and what led to insights about human nature that were centuries ahead of their time. You've probably understood that most human activity is driven by unconscious desires and fears rather than conscious choice or rational decision-making. You've likely experienced what makes this philosophical perspective both valuable and isolating. Once you see these patterns clearly, you've probably found it becomes difficult to participate unconsciously in social rituals that you recognize as largely meaningless. Your awareness has probably shown you that this doesn't make you superior to others, it makes you different. You've likely traded social ease for intellectual honesty, popularity for authenticity, the comfort of belonging for the clarity of independent thought. Your development probably aligns with what modern psychology calls metacognitive awareness, the ability to think about thinking, to observe your own mental processes and those of others with some detachment. You've likely recognized it's a form of intelligence that emerges primarily through solitary reflection. Schopenhauer wrote, "Only he who is alone can be truly free." Your experience has probably shown you he meant freedom from the unconscious social pressures that shape most people's thoughts, values, and decisions without their awareness. You've probably discovered that you can still engage with society when necessary or valuable, but you do so from conscious choice rather than unconscious compulsion. You've likely learned to participate in social life as an observer and occasional contributor rather than as someone who needs social validation to feel complete. Your philosophical perspective probably allows you to see opportunities and solutions that others miss, to think beyond conventional wisdom, to question assumptions that everyone else accepts without examination. You've likely experienced the other side of this awareness. You often feel like you're living in a different world from most people. You can probably see the games people play, the illusions they maintain, and the psychological mechanisms that drive most social behavior. If you've ever felt like you were watching human behavior from the outside, even when you were participating in it, comment, "I see the patterns everyone else misses." Your wisdom has probably shown you that this perspective isn't cynicism, it's clarity. And you've likely recognized it's exactly what the world needs from people who have the courage to step back, observe, and think independently about the challenges we all face. Schopenhauer understood something about creativity that modern neuroscience is only now confirming. Original thinking requires what I call creative restoration, periods of mental quiet that allow new ideas to emerge from the unconscious mind. Most breakthrough insights don't come from social brainstorming or collaborative thinking. They emerge from individual minds that have had the time and space to go deeper than collective thinking allows. When you're constantly surrounded by other people's voices, opinions, and ideas, your mind never gets the chance to hear its own voice. You're always responding, reacting, and adapting rather than generating something genuinely original. Schopenhauer spent hours each day in solitary walks, often the same route, allowing his mind to wander without agenda or purpose. He understood that creativity requires what psychologists now call divergent thinking, the ability to explore multiple possibilities without immediately judging or organizing them. But divergent thinking is suppressed in social situations. When other people are present, your brain automatically shifts into convergent thinking mode, trying to reach consensus, avoid conflict, and find solutions that others will accept. This is why the most innovative thinkers in history have consistently been people who spent significant time alone. Newton developed his laws of physics during solitary periods. Einstein called his solo thinking time combinatory play. Darwin spent decades developing his theory of evolution through patient, solitary observation and reflection, what I call the incubation principle. Creative solutions often require your unconscious mind to work on problems while your conscious mind is quiet. This only happens during periods of unstimulated solitude. No social interaction, no media, no external input. Intelligent people who choose solitude understand this process and protect it. They're not avoiding social interaction out of fear or inability. They're creating the conditions necessary for original thinking. But here's what makes this particularly valuable in our current world. We live in an age of constant connectivity and information overload. Most people's minds are so filled with other people's thoughts that they never develop their own. The person who regularly chooses solitude is like a clear lake in a muddy world. Their thoughts have the clarity that comes from stillness, the depth that comes from patience, the originality that comes from silence. Schopenhauer believed that these solitary thinkers are the ones who ultimately advance human understanding. Their contributions emerge from the depths of individual reflection that social thinking can never reach. They're not running away from humanity. They're developing insights that humanity desperately needs. But those insights can only emerge in the silence that solitude provides. If you've ever solved a problem or had a creative breakthrough during a quiet moment alone, comment, "My best ideas come from silence." This creative restoration doesn't mean they work in isolation forever, but it means they bring something unique to their collaborations, perspectives that emerge from beyond the boundaries of what everyone already knows and accepts. Your intelligence has likely shown you that the most effective approach to solitude isn't complete withdrawal from society, but what I call balanced integration, the strategic use of solitude to enhance rather than replace social connection. Your awareness has probably recognized that Schopenhauer himself demonstrated this balance. While he was famous for his solitary habits, he also engaged in meaningful correspondence, attended cultural events, and contributed to intellectual discourse. You've likely understood that his solitude served his engagement with the world rather than replacing it. Your wisdom has probably led you to understand the difference between restorative solitude and avoidant isolation. You've likely discovered that restorative solitude is chosen from strength. You retreat to recharge, reflect, and develop insights that you can bring back to your relationships and work. Your experience has probably shown you that avoidant isolation is chosen from weakness, withdrawing because social interaction feels overwhelming, threatening, or impossible to manage successfully. You've probably recognized that your choice of solitude represents what psychologists call self-regulation. You've likely learned to monitor your mental and emotional energy levels and take the space you need to maintain your cognitive resources. Your awareness has probably shown you that this makes you a better friend, partner, and colleague when you do engage. You're likely present rather than depleted, authentic rather than performing, contributing rather than consuming. Your understanding probably aligns with what modern research confirms about Schopenhauer's observations. Introverted individuals aren't antisocial. They simply have different optimal arousal levels. You've probably discovered you perform best and feel most yourself when you've had adequate time for quiet reflection and mental restoration. Your intelligence has likely shown you that this applies to extroverts as well. Everyone benefits from periods of solitude, though different people need different amounts. You've probably recognized that the intelligent choice is learning what you need rather than accepting what society expects. You've probably developed what I call the solitude capacity principle. Your experience has likely shown you that developing your ability to be alone without being lonely is like building a muscle. The stronger it becomes, the more freedom you have to choose how you engage with others. Your wisdom probably allows you to say no to social obligations that don't serve you. You can likely leave situations that drain your energy. You've probably learned to prioritize depth over surface-level connection and be selective about who gets access to your time and attention. Your understanding has probably shown you that this selectivity isn't selfishness, it's wisdom. You've likely recognized what Schopenhauer understood. Your capacity to contribute to others depends on your capacity to maintain your own mental and emotional resources. Your awareness has probably led you to understand that the most generous thing you can do for the people you care about is to take care of yourself well enough that you can show up fully when it matters. If you've learned to enjoy your own company so much that you're more selective about the company you keep, comment, "I choose quality over quantity." Your development has probably created what psychologists call secure attachment, the ability to be close to others while maintaining your individual identity and autonomy. Schopenhauer's insights about intelligent solitude have revolutionary implications for how we think about success, relationships, and human potential. Your awareness has likely shown you that people who choose solitude often become the bridges between what is and what could be. Your intelligence has probably told you they're not running away from the world. They're developing the clarity and insight necessary to see the world as it really is, beyond the social illusions and collective assumptions that keep most people trapped in conventional thinking. You've probably sensed why solitary intelligence feels threatening to others. Your awareness recognizes it represents a form of freedom that challenges the entire social structure built on external validation, group conformity, and the fear of being alone. Your experience has probably shown you that when you meet someone who seems genuinely content in their own company, who doesn't need constant social stimulation, who appears to find something endlessly fascinating in their own inner world, you're encountering someone who has accessed a form of intelligence that most people never develop. You've likely discovered that the mind, properly cultivated in solitude, becomes capable of insights and creations that social thinking could never produce. Your experience has probably shown you that your greatest contributions to humanity come not from constant availability, but from the depths of understanding that solitude makes possible. Schopenhauer wrote, "The more a man is worth in himself, the more he will find in himself a source of happiness that will never be exhausted." Your journey has probably shown you this isn't selfishness. It's the development of inner resources that allow you to give from abundance rather than need. Your awareness has probably revealed that choosing solitude isn't about avoiding human connection. You're preparing for it. You've likely discovered you're developing something valuable to bring to every interaction. Depth rather than surface, authenticity rather than performance, wisdom rather than mere opinion. Your understanding of our hyper-connected world has probably shown you that this capacity becomes even more valuable. While everyone else is drowning in information and social noise, you've learned to think in silence and maintain clarity. While others are exhausted by constant stimulation, you likely remain centered and focused. You've probably recognized that you become what society desperately needs: a clear thinker who can see beyond the chaos, a creative mind who can imagine better solutions, a wise individual who can offer perspective rather than more confusion. If you recognize that your alone time has made you a better person in relationships, comment, "Solitude taught me how to truly connect." Your wisdom has probably shown you the terrifying intelligence of people who choose to be alone. Not the intelligence to withdraw from the world, but the intelligence to engage with it from a place of inner fullness rather than emptiness, strength rather than desperation, choice rather than compulsion. You've probably realized by now why the intelligence of people who choose to be alone feels so threatening to most people, and why it shouldn't threaten you. Your awareness has confirmed what I said at the beginning. You've discovered a truth that challenges everything most people believe about human connection and mental capacity. That truth is simple but revolutionary. Your highest intellectual and creative abilities require periods of genuine solitude to develop and maintain. You've probably already understood that you're not broken if you need time alone to think clearly. You're not antisocial if you prefer depth over breadth in your relationships. You're not missing out if you choose solitude over social obligations that drain your energy. Your journey has likely confirmed what Schopenhauer spent his life proving. The capacity for intelligent solitude is actually a sign of psychological strength, not weakness. It's evidence of inner development that most people never attempt. You've probably recognized that people who choose to be alone haven't given up on humanity. Your wisdom has shown you they've simply learned the difference between being alone and being lonely, between isolation and restoration, between withdrawal and preparation. Your understanding has probably revealed that your best contributions to the world, your creativity, your insights, your authentic presence, emerge from the silence that only solitude can provide. Your awareness of others' discomfort around people who seem completely content being alone probably isn't just social conditioning. You've likely recognized it's their recognition that these individuals have accessed something they might not have developed yet: the ability to find genuine fulfillment in their own consciousness. Your intelligence has probably led you to Schopenhauer's beautiful truth. This capacity is available to everyone. You can learn to enjoy your own company. You can develop inner richness that makes solitude a luxury rather than a punishment. You can use chosen aloneness to enhance rather than replace your connections with others. Your wisdom tells you that the next time you encounter someone who seems genuinely content in solitude, you're recognizing Schopenhauer's insight. You might be in the presence of someone who has discovered forms of intelligence that emerge only in silence, thoughts that arise only in stillness, and wisdom that develops only when the mind is free from the constant influence of social noise. You've probably realized they're not running away from intelligence, they're running toward it. And what they discover in that solitude might be exactly what the world needs. Your journey has probably shown you that the terrifying intelligence of people who choose to be alone isn't something to fear. It's something to understand, respect, and perhaps develop within yourself. Because in a world full of noise, you've likely discovered that the person who has learned to think in silence holds a form of power that no amount of social connection can provide. If you want to explore more insights about consciousness and human potential, check out my video, Why You Lost Interest in Your Hobbies After Awakening, where we dive into how psychological development changes your relationship with activities and interests. Thanks for watching. See you in the next dimension.